The CPS2 board that my friend had, which when we picked it up had a strange rolling sound, like a stone or something in it was rolling around, and there was some weird brown liquid oozing out of it. And of course it was the battery. Now this one, the battery acid was quite extreme. Pretty hard to see because of the terrible light in here, but this CGA chip here, all of these are severely corroded due to the battery acid. All these bits are pretty much destroyed. Luckily these bits here are all sort of battery circuit, and if we remove the battery with the CPS2 it doesn't really matter. These guys here were pretty smashed as well. And this capacitor was just about melted, so I replaced him. This one's pretty bad too, but I didn't actually bother replacing it. So obviously because the battery was rolling around in it, the board had suicided, because Capcom have this great encryption scheme thing where if the battery is removed or dies for too long, it drops the encryption or decryption tables and you can't play the game anymore. So I've got a Phoenix ROM I wrote in there, which when I wrote it, it kind of worked. It looked like it was doing the right thing, but all the graphics were completely messed up. There's my cat. So I took all these ROMs off and cleaned them to make sure that there wasn't any problem there. All the sound worked fine, so there didn't seem to be any problem with the sound circuitry due to the acid damage. But yeah, all these pins around here were basically, this whole quadrant of the board was just destroyed. So I started trying to work out where the wiring was supposed to go. Some of the ones down here it was quite obvious because you could see the traces going to the CN2 header here. So I fixed them up because it was really obvious, and cat, out of the way. That didn't fix all the problems, so I had to start fiddling around with these guys here, the CGA and the CGD chips. So I have a Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo board which I used to find where all the pins go from all of these guys. There's like 120 pins on this chip, so I traced pretty much every single one of these to find out where they go. Some of them come from, some of them are address selectors along the ROM chips here, EPROMs. This board seems to do the selection, the address selection on the ROMs, and this one does more of the decryption. Getting the data back from the ROMs. So it seemed like most of the connections from this one were destroyed, which isn't surprising because considering this is where all the battery damage was. Almost all the pins down here are fine, actually. They're all the ones along this side, so I'll post a description link to my spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet thing with all the where the pin outs go, because I'm sure anyone else who's got an acid damaged board is going to have pretty much exactly the same areas which are destroyed. So there's one random little pin in here that goes over to the CGD chip. Otherwise they all, well, pretty much all of them go to the ROMs. So I've just put little Kynar wire from these pins around the back of the board under there, so they solder onto the bottom side of the EPROM chip pins. And finally I managed to get it working, so let's turn it on. Yeah, I've got a Gombas GBS, so you get that screen there. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Perhaps not the most worthwhile board to spend hours and hours and hours trying to work out where all those pins went, but it's still pretty cool. And now it looks great. All this screen was just covered with garbled graphics before. So awesome. This is a really fun game too. Some people don't really care for it, but those people are eggs. So yeah, I'll post up all the findings that I've had about the motherboard, because I like sharing. I like how it says Super Puzzle Fighter, Super Karate, Puzzle Dojo. But what do you expect from Dan? Okay, just thought I'd show all this. Cheers.